streaming December 12th on Peacock. Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie are back.
That's hot. Loves it.
For a show-stopping reunion that will prove putting on an opera is anything but simple.
We're really good at this.
One thing's for sure, they won't be upstaged.
Good to have you back. Come on, we've got a show to do.
Paris and Nicole, The Encore, a 3-part reunion special, streaming December 12th, only on Peacock.
This episode is brought to you by Skinny Pop Popcorn. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Oh, so light and crunchy. Skinny Pop Original Popcorn is the snack you've been searching for. Made with just 3 simple ingredients: popcorn kernels, sunflower oil, and salt. Snacking never felt or tasted so good. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Give yourself permission to snack and pick up Skinny Pop Original Popcorn today.
She's like, what's your name? I was like, Esme. She's like, what's your podcast name? Esme's Country Life. Well, there we go. There's your face. I was like, yep, that is my face. This was someone I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, no, I haven't actually met you before. I'm like, oh, lovely to meet you. And I'm like, oh, yeah, we haven't actually physically met in the real world. We only met in the internet world. Hello everybody and welcome back to my podcast, Esme's Country Life. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about why I have my face on my jumper, if you're watching this on video format. We're also going to be talking about my trip to the Spotify HQ and also about how my car is haunted. But before we begin, I just want to say a huge thank you to the sponsor of the podcast, Red Post. Red Post is an equestrian and country store based in the UK and they also ship all over the world. And guys, I've been saying this every episode, but Christmas is around the corner. And at Red Post, if you have any friend or family member that you need to buy for that basically walks outdoors, they will have something for them. They have winter coats, they have winter boots, they have hats, they have scarves, they have all the winter attire. And also, they have dog stuff as well. So if you have a friend or family member that has a cute little pooch that maybe needs new collar or some new treats or some more dog toys, you can get it at redpostequestrian.co.uk. But anyway, let's get into today's podcast episode. First off, I just want to start with saying a huge thank you to you guys because it has happened. Spotify Wrapped has come out and oh my goodness, it just warms my heart so much seeing everybody tag me and the podcast in their Spotify Wrapped saying that I was their top podcast. So number one, thank you for that. And also, something that's quite cool is I got my Spotify Wrapped as well as a Spotify podcast creator. So that was quite fun. I had double the fun. I had my personal one, also had that one as well. So I was looking through and the podcast was number 4 in the charts. That is wild. That is mental. If you think of how many podcasts there are out there and we were number 4, you guys are incredible. So thank you so much. I think the podcast also, I was looking through the stats. I'll try and remember what they were, but I think it's grown by 108%. So that is incredible. So yeah, thank you to everyone that started listening to the podcast this year or has listened to episodes because you're the reason that I can do this. And also you're the reason that I was able to go to the Spotify HQ, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But first, because I know you guys are all very nosy and I'm also very nosy, I thought we would actually start the episode off with going through my Spotify Wrapped because on the day that I'm recording this, it actually came out yesterday. And also, I've got a little funny story about this because I was talking to my friends about this because, you know, with Spotify Wrapped, at the end, it always has like your top artist and they give you a little message and it's always like, thank you so much for listening to like my music this year. I hope you have a lovely 2025. It's always like the same kind of spiel. But oh my gosh, okay, so my top artist was Noah Khan and honestly, I feel like I got humbled from his message because it started off just being like, I'm sorry that it started off with an apology. I was like, this is like YouTube back like 7 years ago when everyone was doing apology videos, but honestly it felt like that. He was like, I'm so sorry that I'm your top artist. Whatever you went through this year, I hope next year it gets a little bit better and I got you through the tough times. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I feel like I've been exposed here. Like, no, what are you saying? I just like his country vibe, and to be fair, there's some good songs that get you through hard times. Anyway, moving on. So I thought that was quite funny. And do you know what? My dad, I was going through his Spotify Wrapped. You will not believe who his top artist is. His top artist is Lana Del Rey, which I just think is brilliant. But also going through, it says like each kind of, there were a few different months that told you what your vibe was, and one of his vibes was Pink Pilates Princess. And I was like, if that does not sum up a middle-aged man, I don't know what is. I think that is definitely because of me. There was some Taylor Swift in there as well. So if you'd like, I need to quickly go through my Spotify Wrapped and see. Okay, maybe did I screenshot it? I think that's probably better rather than going through the whole thing. So my top song was Please, Please, Please by Sabrina Carpenter, and I was in the 0.1% of listeners globally. So there we go. That was like my song that obviously I was listening to. Oh yeah, it was Pink Pilates Princess Strut Pop. Can't forget about the strut pop at the end. Anyway, there we go. And then my top artists were Noah Kahan. Number 2 was Taylor Swift. Number 3 was 21 Pilots. So we've got a real mix there. We've got like country, pop, and then...
Is it time to reimagine your future? The right business skills may make a difference in your career. At Capella University, we offer a relevant education that's designed to focus on what you need to know in the business world. We'll teach professional skills to help you pursue your goals, like business management, strategic planning, and effective communication. And you can apply these skills right away. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
Come to me.
Focus Features invites you to succumb to the darkness.
Nosferatu.
From director Robert Eggers comes a masterpiece of horror.
He is coming. This creature is a force more powerful than evil. It is death itself.
Nosferatu. Rated R. Under 17 nanometer without parent. Only in theaters Christmas Day. Special engagements in Dolby and IMAX.
Emo music, I don't know. 21 Pilots, sometimes I just like, because it's quite not upbeat, it's just like, okay, it's like my gym kind of music, like, okay, she's pumping iron, she's ready to go, I am a strong woman. I don't know. There we go. We also have Oh Wonder for my more like chilled kind of beats. Oh Wonder have got some good songs. And then number 5, we have my indie music. We have Declan McKenna. I've just realised 2 of those artists I managed to see this year in concert, so I feel honoured. That's pretty cool. My top songs were Please, 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 that I've already said. Northern Attitude, which is Noah Kahan's song. We have Mrs. We have False Confidence, which is another Noah Kahan song, which is actually one of my favourites. And then we also have You're Gonna Go Far, which is also another Noah Kahan song. So there we go. If you are nosy, then that was what we got. My minutes listened was 27,797. There are a lot of 7s in that. So there we go. That is my Spotify Wrapped for you all, as me as a human personally. So there we go. That was that. There's not really much else to say. So how about we go on to my trip to the Spotify HQ. So I kind of talked about this like a little bit in one of my previous episodes, that I was going and that I was invited. So I felt very honoured. I've not been to any sort of like influencer parties to do with the podcast or to do with Spotify before. So I was a little nervous going in, but then I did think to myself, Esme, you're going to a party full of podcasters. If there's one thing that these people can do, they can chat, they can talk. So I was like, I'm just going to ask them some questions. I'm sure somebody will just like chat away in my ear. So anyway, I actually didn't really talk to that many podcasters. Because I got there quite early. It was one of those things where like I was like, do I go early? Do I go fashionably late? Because a lot of these kind of like influencer content creator things, a lot of people get there fashionably late. They want to be cool. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get there. Sound off. My dad did not put his phone on silent. If you heard that, someone's popular, he's getting all the messages through. Anyway, so I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm going to get there on time, get there early, do some networking, do some chatting. I got there so early that I literally was the first person to walk in. So anyway, ended up chatting to a really lovely lady from ITV. So that was good fun. Had a really big chat with her. She was really lovely. That's one thing I've noticed when I go to these things. I always just end up talking to people that aren't actually content creators, and I often find they're nicer. Maybe that's just me though. Anyway, and then because I walked in, I chatted to quite a few of the people from the Spotify team. That was really lovely because obviously I've had like kind of video calls with them over the years, so to be able to like actually meet people in person, it's such a weird thing because you kind of feel like you've met somebody already. I have that a lot in my job where I've had like calls with someone, I'm like, oh okay, oh no, I haven't actually met you before. Like, oh, lovely to meet you, and I'm like, oh yeah, we haven't actually physically met in the real world, we only met in the internet world. So that was really lovely. Had a little catch up with them, chat with the team, and then they were like, oh, you must go over here to our little workshop kind of thing, and I thought, oh, that's always good fun, I'll head to it first, because normally at these sort of events, workshop things get really busy really quickly because everyone wants to go and do it, and then there's often a queue. So I thought, if I'm one of the first people here, I'm just going to go for it, let's go. So I didn't know what this workshopy thing was, so I went around the corner, and there were these big screens, and the best way I can describe it is if you go to a fast food restaurant, you know, they have those screens that you can like order your food on. It kind of looked like that, and I thought, oh okay, like, is this going to be like to order food or to obviously my brain was thinking food, but so I was like, okay, this is quite cool. Did a little tappy away, and it was like a picture of a hoodie. I thought, oh, that's quite cool, we like making like little hoodies, that kind of thing. And then it was like, pick your size, so I picked my size, and then I was talking to the guy. There was a guy kind of like working behind it. I was like, oh, how does this like work, that kind of thing. He was like, oh, what's your podcast name, or what's your name? And I was like, oh, Esme, or Esme's Country Life. So clicked on E. Mine was the only one there for E, and he was like, oh, there we go, there's your face. I was like, yep, that is my face. Anyway, clicked on it, and then he was like, perfect, I'll print that out for you. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, have I just printed a photo of my face and of my podcast on a hoodie? Yes, I have. And I don't know how I feel about that. It's giving the same vibes as Jojo Siwa having pictures of her face all over her car. I don't really know how I feel having an item of clothing with my actual face on. So there we go. Also, just a little thing that I want to chat about. So one of the reasons why I was invited to the Spotify HQ is that Spotify have asked me to be in their creator program, which is very exciting, and it does now mean that my podcasts are now available on Spotify in video format. So obviously the podcast is still available on all of your usual podcast streaming things, but if you so happen to have a Spotify account, it would mean a lot if you'd listen to and watch the podcast on there, because they're helping your gal out, and I'm going to help them back. So thank you, Spotify, for being amazing. So anyway, so that is why, if you're watching in video format, you will be able to see I have a lovely jumper with the Esme's Country Life logo on that has me staring down at you, a little bit like the Mona Lisa. So for most of this episode, I think I have just had my face covered with my hair, because I don't know what it is. Things with faces on do freak me out a little bit. I don't know what it is. So anyway, we've got my face staring at you. I think it's because it's realistic. If it's like a little cartoon face, that's fine. But because it's literally a photo of me and my face, there we go. I think I should wrap this jumper up. I don't know. Actually, I was like, I don't know if it will fit my brother, because I got it to fit my size. Because when they're like, oh, what size are you? I'm just like, bing. My brother's a bit bigger than me and a bit taller than me, even though he's my little brother. So I was like, maybe I should wrap up my jumper and just give it to my brother for Christmas as one of his presents, because I feel like he will find that quite funny, especially as I actually have a jumper from his workplace that they just gave him a load of jumpers when he started his job. So he was like, do you want one? I was like, yes, please. So we can do a little jumper exchange. To be fair, I do think he does have some This Esme merch already. At some stage, I've definitely given him some over the years. But anyway, there we go. That is why I have a jumper with my face on. And one thing that I will tell you about this like Spotify party that I went to is the vibe was very different to the sort of creator things that I've been to, or parties I've been to before, because a lot of times I go to these things and a lot of people are in their 20s, like there's a lot of people kind of my age, that kind of thing. But at this Spotify party, because it was podcasters, there were people of all different ages. There were people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 20s, so that was wild. But made some friends, chatted to some people, that was really lovely. There was also, they had a performance, so that was very cool. I think it was by a lady called Jessie Ware, so she did some singing. She also has a podcast as well, so she did a little chatty kind of bit too. But anyway, when she was singing, in between her songs, because I was kind of like standing quite near the front of the stage when she was singing, in between her kind of like songs where they were like changing the instruments, or I don't know, like in between kind of songs, they do a little scoot around, little change, and she was like, oh, you there, come on up. And I was like, me? Okay, I didn't know this was like a pantomime. We were doing like audience participation, because if you didn't know, in real life, I am actually a very shy person. So I was like, okay, main character, I just got to go up there. I can't just be like, no, thank you, because that's just really rude, isn't it? So I ran up. She's like, what's your name? I was like, Esme. She's like, what's your podcast name? Esme's Country Life. Then she's like, where are you from? And then as I was about to say where I was from, the mic went, that really horrible noise, and then the mic just stopped working for me for some reason. Maybe she like moved it over some sort of threshold. She was like, okay, on that note, on to my next song. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was so embarrassing. But anyway, there we go. What can you do? But no, made some friends. There was one lady that I was chatting to. I think she was somebody's either like podcast producer, manager, that kind of thing. And she was like, oh my gosh, you're Esme with the horses. And I was like, yes. I was like, oh my gosh, somebody here actually knows who I am. Because previously, before this, you know how I'm always like, okay, guys, when you go to these events, or if you go somewhere and you don't know anyone, you just have to go up and say hi, introduce your name, have a little small talk chat. Like a lot of these events, it is just a lot of small talk, which small talk can be quite painful, but you just got to do it. You got to make friends. So anyway, went up to these two girls. I won't say what their podcast name is because I don't want to sound like I'm being mean. But anyway, walked up, said hello, introduced myself. I was like, hi guys, I don't know anyone here. My name's Esme. I just thought I'd say hello. And they were like, oh, hi. First red flag. They didn't introduce themselves. They obviously thought I was some sort of fan and this was like a fan interaction. And they I was like, first red flag, they just didn't say what their names were. So I was like, oh, what are your names? And then they said their names. And to be fair, they did like chat to me for a little while. They asked me what my horses' names were and what I did and that kind of thing. But I think pretty much at first, the most mortifying thing was they were like, oh, do you work for Spotify? And I was like, oh, no, I'm a podcaster as well, which I wasn't expecting them to know me, but it was just the way they were kind of like, oh, I think they thought that I was like a fan or something, which even if like I did listen to their podcast, I don't know, they could have been a little bit warmer. But anyway, then when they said what their podcast name was, I was like, oh, I have actually heard of that one. I haven't listened to it, but maybe I was like, oh, I'll give it a listen. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go and meet my friend round the corner. I did not have a friend round the corner. I just needed to run away. I needed to escape. So there we go. That is awkward influencer social interactions with Esme. So anyway, later on in the evening, I ended up chatting to this lady producer who knew who I was. She was like, oh my gosh, you came to my son's pony club. And then she started rattling off all of these stables that I've ridden at and all of these people that I know. And then she told me where she lived. And it's literally like the next door neighbouring village to where I live. And I was like, what on earth is going on? What is happening? And then the content creator that she kind of manages, he lives like near me as well in the nearby town, and I was just like, what is going on? What in a small world? Because normally at these kind of things you chat to people and they're like, yeah, I live in London, I live in this part of London. I'm like, I don't know London that well. I know it well enough, but I am a country bumpkin at heart. Like, anyway, so there we go. But anyway, it was nice chatting to them. It was nice to find a friend and somebody to chat to. It was a different vibe to most people that I talk to at events, so that was lovely that I kind of found someone to talk to for the rest of the evening. But yes, so there we go. That was my time at Spotify, which was lovely. So thank you again, Spotify, for having me. Listen to the podcast on Spotify. Anyway, moving on. While we were in London, we were kind of like walking by, and my dad very kindly, because it was like an evening kind of thing, he was like, I don't know if I want you walking around the big city on your own. So he very kindly took me to the event, dropped me off, came and picked me up. But while I did that, he went for a big old walk. He literally walked like like a half marathon, I think. Was it more than a half marathon? He walked so much. And while he was walking, he said that he walked all the way to Hyde Park, where Winter Wonderland was. And then on the train back, we had a whole chat about Winter Wonderland, which I thought I would talk to you guys about, because we went to it when I was a kid. So it must have been about 10 years ago that we went. And I think it's changed a lot, mainly because of the internet, because I feel like it's a very kind of Instagrammable kind of place. We were chatting about it, and don't get me wrong, when I was younger, I had a brill time there. I had a great time. We did ice skating, we got hot chocolate, we went on some of the rides. But now I'm older, I don't know if that's my kind of thing anymore. Like, one of my best friends, she went this year. She goes every year. She absolutely loves it. And if you're a Winter Wonderland person, don't get me wrong, I feel like I'm going to sound like Scrooge here, or like I'm going to sound like such a like bar humbug. I hate Christmas. Don't get me wrong, I love Christmas. But the thought of going to Winter Wonderland, personally for me, sounds like my worst nightmare, because I hate crowds. The thought, oh my gosh, imagine going on a Saturday where it's so busy. I cannot think of anything worse. I hate big crowds. I get so overwhelmed. Like, I think, like, I would just cry, honestly. And then it's so expensive nowadays. I don't remember it being, I think it was maybe free to enter back when we used to go, but you have to pay, I'm pretty sure, the amount of, so I'm basing this on all the videos that I've seen online. I feel like I can't give a full review because I haven't been in recent years, but you have to pay £5 to enter. And then if you want to do any of the games, I'm pretty sure it's like £20, like British pounds. I know sometimes people get confused. They're like, pounds in weight? No, pounds is in British pounds. And then the amount of videos I've just seen on my For You page being like, I went to Winter Wonderland and this is what I spent. And it's often in like the hundreds when it comes to money. Like, if I wanted to go and play some games, I don't know. I've got some buckets at home. I can use a tennis ball. I can throw them in and then shred some money. It's basically the same thing, honestly. And then basically, I think the whole thing of Winter Wonderland is couples going there to get social media photos. Honestly, I feel like you could play. Honestly, I think it'll be quite fun just going there and doing like a scavenger hunt, but trying to like tick things off on the list. So there'll be a couple taking photos where the boyfriend looks absolutely miserable. There'll be somebody paying overpriced money for something that you could get at a cute little Christmas market locally. That would be, I mean, to be fair, I mean, Christmas markets, they are often overpriced, but a lot of them are small businesses. So small businesses, you go for it, you make your Christmas dollar. It is hard times at the moment, but yeah, I was going to say you could probably go to somewhere like Borough Market and get cheaper food, which is saying something because Borough Market is so expensive as it is. I just remember watching this video online and it was like strawberries and cream there, and I can't remember how much it was, but it was extortionate. You could have just popped to your local like supermarket and got it a lot cheaper, but anyway, or was it just, I think it was strawberries covered in chocolate. Anyway, don't get me wrong, I am in a very fortunate position, but even I look at some of these prices, I'm like, girl, that is a rip-off. And then honestly, you could go to Selfridges, probably buy 5 Jellycat plushies or like soft toys or teddies, and still spend less money than doing all the games, which half of the time they're all rigged to try and get the most sad looking, made of plastic, probably not very high welfare standards soft toy plushie that is probably going to end up in landfill. Sorry if I'm being cynical here, guys. It's I know it's about making the Christmas memories, but I just you know what? I would much rather save that money and go for a really nice restaurant meal, sit down. Like, the food, don't get me wrong, the food does look good there, but could you get food as good at a restaurant where you're in the warmth and you're sitting down? Most probably. Because, I don't know, don't get me wrong, I love going to theme parks. Like, in the summer, I am a theme park girl. I love roller coasters. I've got to say, my favourite theme park in the whole world isn't actually my local one. My local one is Thorpe Park. My favourite one, Alton Towers. Nothing can beat Alton Towers. It is my favourite. I've been lucky enough to go to loads in America, in Florida, all that kind of stuff. Alton Towers, has a special place in my heart, mainly because my grandparents used to live in the Midlands, so every summer we would go kind of up there, and we would go and stay at theirs, and we would always go to Alton Towers, and they have something for everyone. They have CBeebies Land, which is like the kids section, which before that was just like some sort of like farm. I'm pretty sure it's like a kind of like farm. They didn't have actual animals, but it was like soft play, that kind of thing. And then they have all the roller coasters, like they have the big ones. And then one thing that I always find about theme parks is that you do a lot of roller coasters and you're like, okay, I need a bit of a chill, especially like after you've had your lunch, you just need like a time to vibe. And a lot of theme parks, you can just hear screaming, you can just hear like the smell of like food, and sometimes you just need time to vibe. And Alton Towers has that because it's basically a theme park set in a stately home, so you can just go for a little walk around the gardens, have a chilled time, look at the manor house, have a little mooch around there, learn about the history. It is literally like a theme park and a National Trust had a baby. So that's how I would describe it. So Alton Towers, you need to get me on your PR list or whatever it's called. You need to invite me over because I've been almost every single year since I was a small child, and it has a special place in my heart. Like, people like to make fun of people who like Disneyland is their special place. For me, Alton Towers is my comfort place that brings me so much joy. And the thing I like about that is a lot, like, Thorpe Park is great, don't get me wrong. I know it's owned by it's Merlin Attractions or whatever, it's owned by the same thing, and they have a lot of big roller coasters. But the thing about Alton Towers is, if you just want to go for a little vibe, if you've had enough of being thrown around upside down, span around, and you just want to sit on a little thing, like they have the haunted house where you can do the little laser quest. I'm pretty sure that it's a walkthrough thing now, they've changed that, but before it was like a little laser quest kind of thing. Like, they have like rides that you can just vibe on, and I really appreciate that in a theme park. So maybe that means I'm getting old, that I just enjoy like just having a little rest in between things, because I am a motion sickness kind of gal. Sometimes, like, if I'm in a car, I can't really go on my phone. That's why I like listening to podcasts on long car journeys. So there we go. If you're ever on a long car journey, stick on my podcast. Thank you. Sorry, I just had to be that person. I had to be that content creator or podcaster promoting their podcast while you're even listening to it. I'm sorry, that's the shame. Anyway, back to theme parks. So yeah, I'm a theme park girl. I love roller coasters. But there's something about a roller coaster that is temporary that gives me the heebie-jeebies. It freaks me out a little bit because it is like the pop-up tent of roller coasters. I have never heard of anyone who has had a good night's sleep in a pop-up tent. That is something, it's like for one night, maybe even single use if you're being bad for the environment. Like, it's like you pop it up, you hope for the best. You're not doing Bear Grylls, D&V, camping out in the wilderness, hardcore in a pop-up tent, are you? But for some reason, popping up a roller coaster, that's fine. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, normal roller coasters by actual places where they've had, like, I don't even want to know how much it costs to build a roller coaster, but where it's been properly built, they have to be tested with all these different dummies and fake people, and then they have like the first people that go around just to check. They have all of these sensors and things to make sure it's safe for people, and then the thought of a roller coaster that's temporarily put up for like a month, it's probably by some dude, and they're like, probably at the end, and you never know, they might be like, oh, there's a few screws left, it will be fine. I don't know what it is, but those roller coasters, to be fair, they could be more scary, which could equal more fun, but fairground rides, there's something about them I don't trust. They scare me a little bit. But also, I feel like a lot of the rides there, like a normal roller coaster where you're in a train or you're like properly strapped in, I feel safe. But you know the ones where they just kind of spin you around, they're not for me. Like, even the teacups, this sounds so sad, the teacups are too intense for me. Get me on a roller coaster where, you know, it goes upside down. Get me on Stealth where it literally goes so high up. I don't care. But if you put me on the teacups, it's not going to end well. I'm going to feel ill. I'll probably get vertigo. it's not going to be good. And I feel like at fairground rides, they're always just the ones that spin you around, and then the rest of the day you just feel uncomfortable and a little bit queasy. So maybe I'm getting old. Maybe that's just me. But I don't know if Winter Wonderland is really the vibe for me. I know that so many people love it and it is their happy place. But a lot of the time, if it was, I mean, it wouldn't be Winter Wonderland then, I was going to say, if it was in the summer. Theme parks in the summer, it's great. You're in your shorts, you go on the water rides, all good fun, lovely jubbly. But in the winter, you're standing in the cold, probably with, don't get me wrong, it's the UK, it's going to be absolutely chucking it down with rain. You're going to be wet, you're going to be cold, you're going to be shivering, you're going to be in a queue with loads of people waiting around to go on a ride that probably lasts a few seconds and then makes you feel ill, and then you're holding on to your overpriced food that you're trying to warm up with while you've wasted half your mortgage trying to do a game which is rigged. And then if you do even win, you get the most sad, pathetic looking plushie that looks like it wants to be put out of his misery. That is what Winter Wonderland... I'm sorry, that I feel like I just had a whole rant there, but there we go. I thought that was quite funny. My friend is going to listen to this because she absolutely loves Winter Wonderland. She's going to be like, no, it's the magic of Christmas. I love it. It's worth every penny. It's so cute. It's all about the memories. And I'm just here. Sorry, I feel like I've been very cynical in today's podcast episode. But anyway, there we go. I'm much more of a country walk. If I want to get wet and cold, I'll go for a country walk, get home, warm up, go for a nice meal, and that'll be a fraction of the price of going. But anyway, I'm probably never going to get invited by Winter Wonderland to do an ad with them. But there we go. Anyway, next up, I thought, as we're on the kind of Christmassy vibes, I would talk about how me and my friends, we went Christmas shopping the other day. And I actually feel very prepared because I've got most of my friends' Christmas presents. My friends' and family's Christmas presents. I've even wrapped them up. All of the presents I've got, I've wrapped them up. There's only a few more that I need to get, so I'm feeling prepared. But we did a little road trip. We went further afield because we went to an outlet because we were like, okay. We also went to an outlet Black Friday weekend, which actually, I can't lie, scared me a little because I thought, oh my gosh. We did go on the Sunday, so it was a little bit more of a chill vibe, but I thought everyone and their nan's dog's hamster are going to be out and they're going to be doing their Christmas shopping at this outlet on Black Friday weekend because everyone's going to be wanting to get the deals. But actually it was okay. But as we were driving along, me and my friends, I was driver, my friends were the passenger princesses, as we were driving along, because we have an electric car, try to be good for the environment. Some people like them, some people hate them. It works for us. Anyway, drive along. And because this car, like me and my dad kind of share it, my dad has access to it on his phone because basically all electric cars nowadays have a built-in like tablet stuck on them and you can do everything from your phone and that kind of thing. So I feel very lucky to have a nice car. But one thing that's quite funny that I didn't realise is that my dad was like, he was tracking us where we were going and what we were doing. And because he has everything from his app, he, for some reason, decided to change the volume of our music. And we would be driving along and then suddenly the music would be blaring. And I'd be like, our car's name is Tallulah. So I was like, Tallulah, calm down. Why are you shouting at us? So I'd turn it down, we'd be driving along, and then he would turn it back up again. I had no idea this was my dad. I thought Tallulah had some sort of brain damage or something. I thought she was going through a phase. I don't know, maybe she was getting angry at me. Maybe she was haunted. I don't know. But we were all like, this is a little bit scary. And my dad did say he was thinking about putting our heated seats on. We did actually already have them on. But imagine if you were just driving along and then you just felt your bum warm up. Because I don't know if anybody else feels like this. One of my friends hates heated seats because she says it feels like you wet yourself. Like some people do feel like that. And honestly, I feel like I'd be driving along being like, Am I like a little bit sweaty down there? Has something gone wrong? But anyway, so there we go. He said that was a little bit too mean, so we didn't do that. He can also do the horn as well. Imagine if you're driving along, then he just presses the horn. The poor person in front of us must think that I was absolute, like, mega raging. Like, who is this nasty person behind me beeping their horn? Luckily, he wasn't that mean. But anyway, so there we go. That is a little note that if you borrow somebody's electric car, If the car does go a little bit funny, it's probably because they are trying to trick you and trying to pull a prank. It wasn't very funny. And on that note, I think I'm going to finish off today's podcast episode there. I really hope you guys enjoyed listening to it and all of the dramas, all of the things. I'm sorry that I went on a little bit of a rant about Winter Wonderland. I'm sorry, normally I'm a very positive person, but I just thought it was funny. But anyway, on that note, we're going to finish off there. I want to say a huge thank you to Red Post for sponsoring the podcast. Also, a huge thank you to Spotify for inviting me to their HQ, which was very fancy. Honestly, it felt like I was in like some sort of what's it called, James Bond episode. It was like we were going into MI5 or whatever. They had all these like little screens for opening all the doors and that kind of thing. So anyway, thank you for Spotify for having me in their creator program. Be sure to listen to the podcast in video format on their app, and I will see you all next time for another chaotic episode of Esme's Country Life. Bye.